So, what are we here to talk about? Well, we could talk about the Heat, but nobody wants to talk about more about that, right?
We're ignoring it, Will.
So, about 20 years ago, a little more than 20 years ago, when I was in business school, to make my rent money in New York City, I took a job with this company, and basically what we did was we would watch episodes of American Idol and Top Chef, and I would literally have to count the number of times in an episode or in a 15-minute segment that Simon Cowell either held, looked at, or drank out of a Coca-Cola cup, or in Top Chef, how many times, the knife label showed and for how many seconds, right? And it was all manual. I'd literally write them down. Somebody would transcribe them into a Excel spreadsheet, and that would go to the sponsor to tell them how great their campaign was, right? Fully manual. So fast forward more than 2 decades, and now we're looking at a completely different universe. And so with our friends at Tinuiti and Amazon here, the technology and the capabilities have changed significantly. So we want to talk, that's just the start of it, but weaving brands into storytelling and live events is an incredibly interesting topic for me as the CEO of Adweek. And I'd love for my fellow conversationalists to, because that's what this is going to be, to tell you succinctly who you are, what you do, and I'll spring this on you, something that you've been sort of binging or really into recently and not the World Cup. So.
All right. Hi. I'm Kate McCagg, and I run the Brand Innovation Lab inside of Amazon Ads. So we're a team of creatives that build custom advertising experiences across all of the places where Amazon businesses exist. We build the custom brand partnerships inside of Prime Video, which is what we're going to be chatting about today. And I am currently binging America's Sweethearts, the Dallas Cowboys.
Nice
or
one.
the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. I love it. It's so good. It's so feminist, you guys. Seriously. Fire it up. I know it seems like it might not be, but it is like one of the most exciting, interesting, empowering shows I've ever seen.
So I hear.
Plug for
Awesome.
America's Sweethearts.
Jeremy.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Kornfeld. I'm president of Tinuiti. Tinuiti is a full-service marketing agency, media agency with a heritage in performance. I'm binging a few things, but probably the one that I just finished was Running Point season 2.
Oh my God, I love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And when it started, I was like, is this going to be as good as season 1? But it just got better as the season went on.
Yeah.
Love Running Point.
Jenny.
Hello, nice to meet you all. I'm Jenny Burke, and I lead video strategy and go-to-market within Amazon Ads, working closely with Kate. So my team and I work to bring to market our Prime Video and video capabilities, including our brand partnerships within the sales team to do big integrations. What am I binging right now? Maybe it's a little cliche as we're going to talk about it a little bit, but I am binging Off Campus. So I know we're going to talk about that, but I just binged it. I'd watched some of it on the way over, but we're going to talk about that. That's my favorite at the moment.
Love it. Yeah, we're going to go in deep into how brands are showing up there. Coming to the Riviera, I decided to binge Below Deck. I had never seen it before, and now I can't stop watching it. That show
People
is
love that show.
Yeah, Below
is-
Deck Med.
Below Deck. Oh
Yeah.
God, Below Deck.
And you're on the med.
Yeah, I'd like to recreate that right now. Okay, so Jeremy, let's start with you. So streaming broadly has become this great canvas for brands that you probably couldn't have done, in the linear world. And I'm curious, just at a very high level, let's start with you and Tinuiti. How are you thinking about brands weaving in, inside, narrative moments, scripted moments, live moments, but just at a very high level,
Sure.
what are you doing?
I mean, the few things. So the one thing with streaming, everybody knows this. You have a known audience. You have a logged in audience. So one of the things that we're always focused on is understanding, who your audience is, both from demographic, behavioral, psychographic, but most importantly, what are they receptive to? What are they interested in hearing about? And if you can pull in commerce data as well, that really allows you to understand buying behaviors. So when you can start to understand that receptivity, then you understand, do you have a right to win, or are there expansion audiences in these places where you want to go and explore and see if you can pull in new people into your brand or your product or your service. That's the first thing. The second thing that I think is really important, and what we've seen and what you'll hear my colleagues talk about on the panel, is this idea of being able to borrow equity. So if you can borrow the equity that you're seeing from a show and figure out ways for you to integrate yourself into that, especially where it becomes seamless, that really helps elevate the equity of your own brand. And that can really start to drive that brand salience, brand preference, and move you into consideration set in a way that you probably wouldn't be able to do from just standard advertising.
Borrow equity. I like that. I like that expression. I'm gonna quote you on that.
Feel free, just put the check in
With attribution, yes, of course. So Jenny, like from an ads perspective, from an Amazon ads perspective, obviously you have a tremendously sophisticated number of ways to that borrowed equity. Yeah. Like how do you advise clients and brands on how to take advantage of that equity?
Yeah, well, Jeremy, I love what you said because that's exactly where we start at Amazon Ads and at Prime Video. We start with that logged in viewer and we understand what they're consuming, what they're doing, and we use that information for our programming strategy. So it starts with, in order to borrow that equity, you need to align with our audiences or our programming. So with Prime Video, our viewers aren't just viewing, right? They're posting, they're talking about it with their friends, they're planning their weeks around this consumption. And that is like really embedded into the culture of our lives, right? And we'll talk about some of those examples, but you start there. And then on the programming strategy, we have this really awesome foundation of being a bookseller where we understand viewership of books and fandoms around books that are leading to titles like The Summer I Turned Pretty, which was the most social engaged audience for any TV show last summer. Not surprising, like Team Jeremiah, Team Conrad. Don't know if we have any fans out there, but the social activation and cultural zeitgeist is so real. And that's from a book adaptation. Or Fallout is another great example where Fallout is built off of one of the most successful games ever, video games, and turned it into a title, and that reached 100 million viewers globally. So these types of things are just in the DNA of our culture. And then sports is just one other piece, just to give a couple examples where we're seeing this fandom around, whether it's Thursday Night Football in the US or Champions League here in Europe. And we build on that, and then we go to brands to understand their goals. And that's like our biggest piece. What is your brand brief? What are you looking to do? Who are the audiences you're looking to reach? What products are important to you right now? And then we align to do big magical things together, whether it's integrations or brand partnerships.
All right, so the big magical things, Kate, I think the magic comes from you.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes,
Kate
okay.
creates the magic.
So take us into the lab of the magician at Amazon, a brand innovation lab.
Yes,
Yes.
magic and science and all of that.
All of it.
Well, I think from a creative perspective, what you just said, Jenny, about like the fan bases that come from books, like these people, and I would count myself among them, who watch these shows feel like these stories belong to them. This is not like I'm a consumer and this is a media placement and I'm seeing a thing because I am age 25 to 44. They feel that these stories belong to them and they feel that they need to be executed in a certain way for them to be true to the reason that they love them. And so creative is really where the rubber meets the road for whether or not you can make something with a brand that resonates with a fan base, like not a consumer and not a viewer, but a fan base. And a fan base cares about how these things get done. So the way that we really thought about the Liquid IV one was like, and this is obviously comes down also to the big time, to the creators of this show, who also loved the show and wanted to stay true to it, but also understand the opportunity in front of all of us to make this more of a commercial opportunity for them, because that's how they get season 2, that's how they get season 3. Like, we have a good, healthy relationship about how we're commercializing this content. And so they really thought about how Liquid IV could be a part of the story, and that's really where it started. Because if it's going to show up in the show, like, it cannot be an eye roller. I think Running Point actually, to like give props to a competitor, I think Running Point really did a great job with that as well, with like saying, you know, brands are going to be a part of things. People have a natural relationship with this. It's okay, but it needs to be done in a way that people can appreciate. And so that was a huge part of the way we thought about it, starting with a really believable integration into the show, and then looking across Amazon and making it so that if you saw a product in the show and you were like, actually, I want to buy that product now, like that works for me, we can then, because we are a retailer, remove the friction between the view and the purchase. And I think that's like the really powerful difference maker now from like, you know, brand integrations were like, Parliament showed up in the game show in 1955. Like, you know, I mean, this is not a
When
new
you were
thing.
counting them.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, there you go.
Geritol.
Counting knives. Exactly.
Geritol, yes. Okay, so one of the rules of the moderator's playbook is to make people be specific, and that will wake people up and make them pay attention and not be on their phones. So, are we gonna show the off-campus example or no? No? Yes?
Are we?
No. Okay. So let's talk through it.
Yeah.
But be as specific as possible if you can. So off campus, please explain the show as briefly, 'cause not everybody will have seen it, and so the premise, and then we'll talk about how Liquid IV got into the show.
Yep. Okay, I'll start. So for those of you, the hockey romance IP is on fire right now. There was another streamer
Speaking of specific.
that had a title, but
Never heard of it.
So Off Campus is based on a book. And we sold 6 million copies of that book. So we knew there was a fan base already for this title. The showrunners decided to create it with some new talent, which we'll talk about. The main characters in the title are Hannah and Garrett, and it takes place on a college campus where Garrett is a hockey star and Hannah's a music student, and they don't exactly get along, but love is in the air, and Kate will talk about the chemistry between them. That is the premise. As we talk about Liquid IV, we have a long-term partnership with Unilever called our Prime Video Signature Partnership. And it's purposeful to be able to get long-term in advance to be able to do what we did here. I'll tell you what we did. Liquid IV came to us and told us about their brand brief. Their brand brief reached Gen Z, right? Their product, hydration, whether it's for training or for Gen Z at a college campus. We said, ding, 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 ding. We went into our vault. We saw, hey, we have off campus coming. It aligns around the time that you're introducing a new product, the cherry ring pop flavor. And we said, we think this is a perfect one to integrate. Fast forward, that meeting happened last year at Cannes here. And we had known months in advance that we were looking to do this. So we locked arms. We had already had a relationship with Unilever. Kate's team had done incredible work around the Summer I Turned Pretty with Liquid IV, and we started building. And what we executed was an integration into the title. There's 5 active, very bespoke integrations that feel natural. For instance, Garrett has an NIL deal. He's a college athlete. And that deal is with Liquid IV, so very natural. There's signage and the hockey rink, and then there's products as well. So there's a lot of integration that feels very organic to the storyline. We did a custom spot, a 30-second spot. Kate will talk about this with the 2 talent, Garrett and Hannah, in character. And that was really powerful because we brought this new talent that is really blown up in the social sphere to come together with Liquid IV. We then did content to commerce shoppable formats across the entirety of the Amazon canvas. And we did experiential with creators and influencers, which is probably one of the biggest pieces to make it go socially viral. So I know that's a lot, but I wanted to get specific because the elements here are really soup to nuts. And it took us about 12 months to get there, but we're really excited about doing more.
Jeremy, I'm coming to you just a minute. I promise. But okay, so it's Amazon's world. We're just living in it, clearly. Okay, tell us how that like literally like the creative process for how you then said, okay, Melissa, right, at Liquid IV or yes, right. How do we do this?
Well, I think the way that we always work with brands in my team is that we look for a shared DNA between the brand we're working with and the Amazon brand, because when there's some shared DNA, we can tell a story together that we both have a right to tell, and it lands a lot more believably with people when they see it. And I think in this case, we looked for shared DNA between this show and the brand of Liquid IV. And Liquid IV, one of the aspects of the plot actually is that it famously, every time people have to pretend to be boyfriend and girlfriend, they obviously end up being boyfriend and girlfriend. So a lot of the show, spoiler alert, is that they're pretending to date, right? So there's this chemistry that's constantly like big time on show of like, oh, are they, aren't they? You know, the chemistry is super palpable. It's super palpable in the spot. But the chemistry and the way that Liquid IV works for your body and to help hydrate you is part of their brand story. So to say in the story that is about both brands, where both brands have room to play, chemistry is everything, it lifts both of them up equally. And I think from a brand storytelling perspective, finding that, like, it doesn't have to be a line, it can be a visual language, it can be an idea, but it has to be something they both have the right to say. Otherwise, it does feel like you're kind of just like elbowing your way in there versus like you're borrowing equity, but also kind of both of you getting a bit of equity out of the deal. From each other, almost.
Yeah, authentically, right?
Well, otherwise it's just a pun, right?
Yeah.
On just a play on the name, and
Yeah, yeah.
so
Which I hate.
right, and so from your perspective, then, like, is it like developing the IP, like the actual, scripting around
Yeah,
that, like,
yeah.
how does that work? Like, you work with the screenwriter, you work with
Yeah.
the producers, you work, like the talent, like, yeah, what's the
Well, I mean, our creative, I wish I could have Sarah explain it. Our creative leader is here. She actually did it. But the writing of that script obviously has a lot to do with making sure that you're maintaining the integrity of the story in that show. And there were a lot of fun ways to go about that. And it's a steamy show. Like, don't like watch it with your parents or your kids. Like, there's some scenes that are super steamy. So, there were different directions that the team took where they like walked up to that line of like, what are they hydrating for? And knowing that like there was sports, but there was also other stuff. Yeah. And like, so the chemistry is everything idea. I think they landed on that in the way that they scripted it and the way that they edited it so that they could show fans the stuff that the fans love about the show and not make it seem like it's just a show about sports, because it is a show about love and attraction and all of that stuff that I think is what's made the show so popular. Yeah.
And Kate, it's interesting that you bring that up because, like we were talking about, so we do all the media for Liquid IV, and like I said at the beginning, do you have a right to win?
Yeah.
So you cover that. Clearly, we had a right to win, but also, to your point around the steaminess of some aspects of the show, the brand's got to feel really comfortable.
Right.
But they have to know what they're stepping into, and they've got to take it all in. It's like you can't bifurcate, like, oh, only put me in these. Like, you're going to be associated with it.
Yeah.
So, are you comfortable doing that? And will you let yourself sort of let your guard down and kind of let the fandom and the equity that you're going to gain take over? And it was, I don't want to say it was a leap for them, but they needed to make sure that they got comfortable with that.
I mean,
yeah.
fair enough. Like, it's fair enough that it would be a leap for them. But when they took it with both feet, and that's why I think it worked.
You have to do
because,
that.
Right? Because they, like, the show became really popular, and once the show became popular, they were like, okay, they did a social post that was like, did you see us in Liquid IV or in off campus or whatever? Then it was like, we'll give you the poster, right? And people went bonkers. They made posters of their social posts. I mean, like, that's how you know that you struck a nerve, when somebody wants to like buy a poster of your social post.
Yeah. So
Like, that's crazy.
How did you get, like, what was the conversation? What the words that to make them feel comfortable? Liquid IV is a bit of an outlier. Let's just admit that, right?
Right.
But still, there's.
But they're a Unilever brand, right? I
And
mean,
you-
they've got a
They are, look,
responsibility.
They are a Unilever
Yeah.
brand, and I think the commentary, because you talked about this in the beginning, which is people are going to take your brand and they're going to say what they want.
Right.
You only have so much control, and we've recognized that through everything that gets done in social and calling out the social posts. Like, you can't be selective and prescriptive about what people are going to discuss. They're going to discuss what they want to discuss. So just know that going into it, and to your point, Kate, like, you have to jump in with both feet and be okay with everything that comes out of it. And there is some risk in that, but you've got to take those calculated risks, and that's the other piece, which is taking a calculated risk, so that that this could really pay off, and it did. And then you have to be comfortable saying, all right, I'm not just going to have this be a moment, but I want to put media behind it to really extend this and to take that equity and push it out further.
Which is about being able to move fast. I think that's another thing that I think
Right.
is super impressive about the way Unilever could
Yes.
move here. Because even if people do get lightning in a bottle, a lot of times it's like, well, but should we or shouldn't we? And I don't know. And let's like have 19 people review the social post. And it gets a bit like much. But I feel like
Yeah.
the pace, I was super impressed with the pace. I
Yeah.
mean, they're so good.
Yeah, I mean, this is a company that whose Super Bowl campaign revolved around K-pop star in Your Nation. So it's like it's
Yeah,
amazing.
we were very excited about that too. That was great.
Yeah.
All right, we have about 7 minutes left. Pay attention, everybody, because this is really interesting. Live sports, right?
Yep.
And Jeremy, I want you to tell everybody about sort of Thursday Night Football, Sony, how you guys worked with them to get something like really interesting to happen for them and also for the viewer. Very
Yep.
important.
So it goes back to the principles that I said at the beginning. So, live sports, leaned in audience, everybody wants to be there. And look, just in general, even outside of live sports, a lot of agencies and other marketers will talk to you about trying to find white space. It's
Yeah.
really hard to find white space, and don't go chase it, right? There's two challenges you've got. There's so much fragmentation. So even if you're finding white space, is anybody really paying attention? I mean, that's the first question you have to ask yourself. And in the places where everybody are paying attention, go back to, is my audience here? That's my core. And is the audience that I want to talk to here? And do I have a right to win with this audience? So if you can answer those three questions, I think you're off to a great start. Now, with Sony, we believe that with Thursday Night Football. And Thursday Night Football is really interesting because Amazon's created another moment here. Amazon and one of your other streaming competitors have done a really good job of creating moments around live events. We looked at the audience, we can understand shopping behaviors and all sorts of data that we can get from Amazon, and we believed we had a right to win here. And we used a lot of things like the audience-based creative, the interactive video ads, and what we saw from the campaign was we thought that we would probably get 40% of our sales attributed to the campaign, but we got 65% of our sales attributed to the campaign, which was great. But then we had to sustain it. So it was not just about capitalizing on that moment, but it was about sustaining it and making sure that we continue to build on that momentum and that equity and run in further games throughout the season and continue to sort of build off of the creative elements that worked and look at some of the other things that weren't even sales, like how much were people interacting? Were they spending time understanding the product? Because it wasn't cheap. It was $500. So, it's somewhat of a considered purchase before people are actually going to say yes to it.
Yeah, and on the Amazon side, like, how did you guys? I mean, it's obviously not sort of thing that, like, it has to work because it's a live moment, right? Like, it's not like, oh, you can sort of like. How did you guys navigate that and tell us about how also how it performed from your vantage point?
Yeah, I mean, I think similarly, just like we do with our entertainment IP, with sports IP, we work really closely with the brands to understand what is that co-creation of other branded content or even the interactive video ads. And audience-based creative, for those of you that might not know, that allows us to deliver specific ads to different audience cohorts. So for sports, that's a big deal, right? Most of sports is one to many, one big campaign, but we were able to, in this case with Sony and others, deliver specific creatives to different audience segments, and then it's much more relevant for that super engaged audience. And then what we see when we do that is we see multiples at times like 3x the interactivity rates versus if you don't use that custom creative, and then add to cart increases. And you really are getting to that content to commerce like Nirvana we've all been dreaming of for a really long time, right? But it is full funnel, right? And it's actually happening, right? So that's what we're seeing not only in entertainment, but in sports and Thursday Night Football.
And then from the innovation lab, like, when you think about live, what are the things that are like exciting to you that you couldn't do like 2 years ago?
I mean, honestly, like this maybe doesn't sound like a very creative answer, but the thing that I like about doing live on Amazon is that a lot of times when people ask you to make a creative execution that lives in a place, they want it to do like 5 jobs. And that is the recipe for making creative like really not engaging or make it confusing or just hard to follow. Yeah. And the thing that's really great about doing things like this on Amazon is that you can actually believably talk about, look, this moment is about this. We're just going to have fun right now. This is just about, the sports moment and having fun with fans. We will talk to this person later when it's appropriate to talk to them about like purchasing a toothbrush or whatever, right? Like it's like talking to people at the right moment, even if it's not the exact same creative, and like cashing that equity in at the right moment instead of trying to build it and cash it and build it and cash it in like a 30-second. I find it to be super relieving from a creative perspective to know that job can be done later
Well,
it
and-
doesn't need to all happen now.
And that's the conversation we had with,
Yeah.
with Sony, which is, look, at any given moment, only 5% of your audience is ready to buy. It doesn't matter what your product is. It's only
Right.
5%. So you still have to talk to the other 95%.
Yeah.
So how are you going to measure, how effective your conversations are, right? Which is your point. Like you can only do so much. So it was also getting the client comfortable around two more things. One is we've got to sustain. So yes, this is a moment, but we've got to keep capitalizing on this moment. And we've got to look at other things beyond sales that could lead to downstream sales. So looking at interactive rates. How well was that mapping back to the different creatives that we were using to the different audience cohorts? That was really important because then what we saw when we ran it again was we saw an even bigger lift in interactive rates and we saw an even bigger lift in sales like a month later.
So there's it's the third quarter of Thursday night football, and your team is losing by 30. You know that this person's team is losing by 30. So instead of a beer ad, you serve a pillow ad or a Sominex ad or something, right? I mean, we're kind of there, right? Like the technology and the ability to like actually sense behavior and get people's preferences. I mean, you guys know so much. So what's next? Like, these are great examples. A year from now, 2 years from now, what are the things you'd like to be able to do that you're not doing or can't do today? And that's how we'll wrap. So I'll start with you.
Gosh, what would I like to be able to do? There's actually so much that we can do today that I think people just aren't ready for, if I'm being honest. Like, I feel like what we can technically capably do, it's like if brands can get the right set of metrics, to your point around like it can't be sales right away or it can be sales as a companion to another metric, we can do amazing things that would blow people's minds today. The problem is like when you get wrapped on the axle about just having sales as a metric, you will keep doing the same thing over and over again. So in a way, like the measurement and the belief and maybe even just the patience and like how you build the equity and how you cash it in is the thing that's missing. The gap isn't anymore like tech or capability. So I don't know if that's a bad answer, but I genuinely believe it because we come up with things all the time and people are like, wow, that's cool. Can we have a video? We're like, yeah, you can have a video. That's also possible.
Jeremy?
I think to your point, Kate, like there's a lot that we can do today.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is just ensuring that we have accountability for every dollar spent.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a client last week, and they said to me, they look at goals month by month, and they said, if we miss, the finance team says to us, why did we miss? And then they're like, and if we hit goals or we exceed goals, the finance team says, well we were going to get that anyways. And it's and they came back to me and they said, we need help around accountability and a source of truth that everyone can believe, not just the marketers,
Right.
but that the finance team can really believe and understand and justify the investment. So I think that's just going to be an ongoing journey that we're always on, and we're searching for utopia. Hopefully, we'll get there.
Agreed on the measurement front. We, if you can't measure it, I mean, our entire goal is to deliver outcomes. So agree with you there. Yeah, I would say, Kate, I'm a little bit like piggybacking off of what you said. I think we'll have more long-term partnerships between brands and streamers or, media and tech providers so that we can build things like we just talked about. It doesn't happen overnight, but we find the more we're doing that with partners, the more impact it's driving, and then we keep doing more and you get to learn to work together. So I think you'll see more of that. And then I think we're excited to build more tent poles with brands.
Yeah.
So whether it's Black Friday and holiday, or right now it's the World Cup, like there's so much activity around that, back to school. So I think you can expect to see a bit more of tent poles from us.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
fantastic. Yeah, this is all about defending against the CF no, as I like to say.
Ooh.
Okay,
like
so, well, thank
Sick
you.
burn.
I believe, are we going to run some video? Yeah, we're going to show a little bit of it to wrap up here. So whenever you're ready, let's show the campaign, the moment.
Come on, will you tease me? Hug me, kiss me, squeeze me. Show me that you need me. Boy, don't you waste it. This high that we're chasing. My fever is calling for you.
More liquid IV.
Ooh, boy,
Crunch something.
we're gonna
Wow.
It's too
Good
much.
stuff. Wow.
It's like too much.